Oral questions by members.
Recognizing the member from Richmond, Queensborough.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This government has had 8 years to deal with rising crime, addictions, and the mental health crisis in the downtown east side of Vancouver. 8 years of failed policies, 8 years of continued inability to action solutions to improve the challenges people experience on a daily basis in the downtown east side of Vancouver. This government solution is to appoint Michael Bryant as the so-called downtown east side czar. Without public announcement, without public transparency, without consultation. The activist community knew Bryant was acting as the downtown east side czar. But the public was left in the dark. And the public didn't find out until the media went digging. Given that the downtown east side is a vulnerable population, can the Premier tell us what specific expertise does Michael Bryant have to deal with the issues of the downtown east side?
The Minister for Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and welcome to the chair. It's good to see you there. Thank you to the member for the question. All of us in this chamber know how the downtown east side faces complex challenges and how hard we've all been working to find more ways to deliver services to people. We have built new housing. We have strengthened access to addiction treatment services. We have added employment supports to be able to help connect people with good jobs that are meaningful to them and help them access more opportunities. But we know that systemic challenges remain. We know that for businesses and for residents that the neighborhood can be unsafe or people can feel unsafe. And that's why we engaged Michael Bryant to be able to work directly with the community, to find advice, to evaluate the work that we've done, to identify solutions to the gaps and the work that remains ahead of us, work that our government is committed to do.
Member for Richmond, Queensborough on a supplemental.
Mr. Bryant was the head of legal aid and suddenly left after 2 years. Can the Premier please inform the House why Mr. Bryant left legal aid so abruptly?
Minister for Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Michael Bryant's previous experience includes being a lawyer, CEO of Legal Aid BC, Executive Director and General Counsel for the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. He also held political office in Ontario, first as Attorney General, also as Minister of Aboriginal Affairs, also as Minister of Economic Development. And the roles that he has held give him a unique perspective, but also an outside perspective. His ability to work with a variety of communities who are impacted by the systemic challenges in the downtown east side is work that we are glad to see him do.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We know about Michael Bryant's past work history. That is why we have so many questions about Michael Bryant. The fact is this government is in the business of rewarding friends and insiders, but this one may be the most egregious. Here's what we know so far. The minister is right. He is a former Attorney Liberal Cabinet Minister, Attorney General, and they should maybe Google on why he left Ontario. Michael Bryant was appointed a consultant in February on a 6-month contract worth $150,000. And how do we find out about this work? We find out about it through Global News. And then we get a press release issued in panic. He also gets $25,000 in expenses. So my question is a simple one to the Premier or to the Attorney General or to anybody that can provide an answer. Was the City of Vancouver consulted before Mr. Bryant was hired?
Minister for Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Michael Bryant has held a variety of roles that give him a unique perspective and ability to work with the businesses, the communities, the people affected by continuing systemic challenges in the downtown east side. He comes to this work as a lawyer, and a former elected official, but he's also been very public about his own struggle with addiction. That lived experience and his recovery journey is certainly well known and compelling to us. These are valuable perspectives to bring to this work. While we continue to work to keep people in the downtown east side living and working safer and make the area safer for everybody, it's very important to hear outside perspectives. And that's the work that I'm pleased that Michael Bryant's doing.
Member for Surrey White Rock on a supplemental.
That's great, Madam Speaker. So outside perspectives for $150,000 for 6 months of work. You know what? And this is maybe why it's so quiet on the government side, we have a pretty good idea why he may have left BC Legal Aid. I think the Premier might have an idea. I think the Attorney General might have an idea. They're not going to get up and talk about this. In fact, the Attorney General, we know, has met with Mr. Bryant. We know the Premier has met with Mr. Bryant as early as February of this year. And what did Mr. Bryant tell Global News? What his big mandate is? What justifies $150,000 for 6 months of work, $25,000 worth of expenses on the backs of our most vulnerable people on the downtown east side? Here he says, and I quote, "Whether the plans the province has underway and the commitments the province made during the election are going to make sense," end quote. That's absolutely embarrassing. A plan for the downtown east side. Are you kidding me? So the Premier may not want to answer this. The Attorney General may not want to answer this. The Solicitor General might not want to answer this. But what justification does this government have for giving this contract to this individual on the backs of our most vulnerable people? It's absolutely a disgrace.
Minister for Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am honored to stand up and support and describe the work that this government has been doing, investing in so a combined 211 supportive homes and shelter spaces are underway or will be preserved. Opening the new Road to Recovery Addiction Treatment Center, fulfilling our commitment. Fulfilling our commitment to have addiction treatment on demand for the people that need it most. Expanding the Hope to Health program to help 50% more people with complex mental health and addiction challenges, and working with Lookout Society in the downtown east side, integrating supportive housing with comprehensive employment services. That's just only 4 of the programs that we've added. And given our closeness, almost every minister directly funding and building new programs, it's absolutely a benefit for us to bring an outside perspective with someone with a unique set of qualifications to investigate that work, to identify gaps, and to point us towards the future work that we need to carry on.
Recognizing the House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Across the country, disability assistance fails to meet the poverty line. In BC, there have been menial increases to rates for persons with disabilities. The costs of housing and essential goods have increased drastically, yet assistance rates have failed to keep pace. The market basket measure of poverty is $2,400 a month, while BC's assistance for a single individual is barely $1,400. That's a gap of $1,000 a month. This is legislated poverty. It's unjust. Year over year, advocates call for this government to raise the rates. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Premier, when will you instruct your government to finally raise disability rates above the poverty line? Thank you.
Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The world does feel uncertain right now. The cost of living has been under pressure by global inflation, by terribly increased costs of groceries, and for British Columbia especially, at an intractably high cost of housing, which we're working very hard to bring down, having some impact. But the members' intervention is exactly why we have made 5 increases to income and disability rates since 2017. This is the largest by any government in British Columbia ever. Since 2017, the rate for a single person is up $450 a month. That is a 74% increase. And we've doubled the senior supplement with this year's budget, and we've increased SAFER grants by 30%. Across government, we are making investments so that people who have faced challenges can overcome the terribly increased cost of living. We've also got the highest earning exemptions rate in the country, so people can supplement with earned income their disability benefits, and also continuing to invest in employment training programs and job support programs for people who have faced barriers. It's work that we have been fully committed to, but the member, it's a very fair point. It's work we're going to continue to do. Thank you.
House Leader for the third party on a supplemental.
Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister, could she survive with a household income of less than $2,300 a month?
Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The work that we have done to I see the members of the opposition are heckling even on this question. So again, I'll flag our record against the leader of the official opposition when he sat in the provincial cabinet. They froze income assistance rates
Members.
at $610 for a decade. And we have increased.
Minister, just a minute. Sit down. Members, let's hear the answer. Minister.
We've increased rates 5 times where the leader of the opposition's party froze income assistance at $610 a month for a decade. They took away the bus pass for disability. We gave the bus pass back. They never touched the senior supplement. We doubled it and increased it again. I'll hold our record up against theirs for vulnerable people any day.
Member for Skeena.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking of that record, the CEO of CLBC gets a $12,000 car allowance, so I'm sure we can find some money in the budget. Yesterday, I raised the case of a young Indigenous woman who was denied access to a shelter and found dead the next morning. The housing minister falsely insinuated that it was a municipally run shelter to offload the responsibility before doing a victory lap. To be clear, it was a permanent shelter that was run with BC Housing funding that she was turned away from. And sadly, her story only gets worse. After one of her overdoses, this young woman was hospitalized, and staff allowed her to use fentanyl and meth inside of her hospital room. When her father made a complaint, instead of receiving the necessary medical intervention to help stabilize her, she was given a wheelchair so that she could continue to use drugs just outside. Does this health minister think that it's appropriate to give vulnerable youth a wheelchair to continue using drugs when they are in crisis?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. Anybody seeking health care in a facility like a hospital needs to get the care that they deserve and need. There are people who enter hospital facilities and other healthcare facilities who are experiencing substance use and addiction issues, and it's important that they are treated with dignity and respect as well. Honourable Speaker, we know that workplace safety is the ultimate goal here, that patients and nurses, doctors, the whole healthcare team needs to be safe. That's why interventions like overdose prevention services are important. Honourable Speaker, that's why we're working to release overdose prevention services minimum service standards, to work with health authorities to ensure that there are places that are safe, where people can access not only the ability to use substances when they are facing these kinds of challenges, and most importantly, Honourable Speaker, to get access to the supports and the care that they need. Mr. Speaker, it's incredibly important to me that every single person using British Columbia's healthcare system is treated with that dignity and respect. And I want to assure the member that that continues to be my commitment, and I welcome further conversation with her about this individual. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Skeena with the supplemental.
Just a few months ago, this young woman was sober for a full week. She made it to a Kelowna hospital with her father, begging for help, begging for treatment. Her father said to me, quote, she could get free food, free crack pipes, free sleeping bags, free drugs, free Narcan. You know what wasn't free? Help, end quote. Instead of recovery services, she was given prescribed alternatives, despite already being sober, and sent back to unsafe conditions where she relapsed. How does this government not see that their approach is enabling and not helping?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. These are exactly the circumstances that we hear about that allow us to redouble our efforts and our commitment to serving people who face these kinds of crises. Honourable Speaker, we're taking actions on all fronts to fight the toxic drug crisis and to support people experiencing these kinds of substance use issues. Madam Speaker, we're building the Road to Recovery model, a seamless continuum of services for people with same-day access to a team that will triage and help a person access opioid agonist therapies, help them access the supports that they need, building more treatment beds, more recovery beds. Madam Speaker, that's what dignified treatment looks like for people, increasing the number and services that are available for people so that they can get the help that they need when and where they need it. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Abbotsford West.
Well, she received everything that harmed her, but the help that Desiree needed. It's very sad. A Jordan's Principle-funded treatment place was fully approved for this youth in a centre in Alberta. But no one from Child and Family Services here in BC showed up to the hospital to complete the paperwork. What happened? The opportunity was lost. Not only did this young person need to go to Alberta for proper support, how can this ministry explain letting treatment plan fall apart simply because their ministry staff couldn't do their job and show up? There it is.
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. As I've mentioned, we are doing everything possible that we can to support youth and adults who are experiencing substance use issues to access the care and the treatment that they need. But, Madam Speaker, I know that the opposition doesn't like to hear about the past. I know they don't want to hear about the record of their leader when he sat on this side of the House. This is the kind of service, Madam Speaker, this is the kind of service.
Members. Continue.
This is the kind of service that they gave to people during their time in office, Honourable Speaker. Cutting funding to the Atlas Youth Recovery in Terrace, the only residential recovery centre for youth in the Northwest, closing the adult psychiatric unit at Abbotsford Hospital. Madam Speaker, eliminating psychology services for adult rehabilitation at the Royal Inland Hospital, closing the only withdrawal management program in the Fraser Valley. Madam Speaker, we are building more beds, we are adding more services, we are expanding the continuum of care for people, and we will not stop.
Member for Chilliwack North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Excuse me. Between the ages of 14 and 16, this young woman's family repeatedly begged Child and Family Services for help. When they called on a Monday, they were told no one could come until Friday. When they requested mental health support, they were told it would be a 34-day wait, despite her having a documented history of self-harm and trauma. This was not a one-time error. This was the norm. How can the Minister for Children and Family Development possibly defend a system that makes a child in crisis wait for more than a month for care?
Shame.
Minister for Children and Family Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Every child in this province and every family deserves access to the support and help that they need when they need it. More importantly, Honourable Speaker, my ministry is also focused on support and help earlier on so that children and families don't get to crisis. And so our ministry is focused and has invested in enhanced early intervention therapy services that support children at the youngest ages. We have wraparound supports and services in community and child development centres that combine developmental specialists with mental health specialists, with clinical counselors. We have integrated child and youth teams in schools. We have invested in Foundry centers, Honourable Speaker. We have made more investments in mental health services than decades before. There is more work to be done, and it's heartbreaking to me to hear when any child cannot access the supports and services that they need. I'm a mom of teenagers. My teenagers have needed to access support and services. We know that there are waits. We know that there are struggles. We are working every day to decrease barriers, to decrease silos between ministries. That work is ongoing, and we will continue to do the work.
Member for Prince George Valemont.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Unfortunately, the current government continues to talk about the history of the opposition 10 years ago. 10 years ago, this young woman was 10. Youth are in crisis now. Now, youth. Today, this young woman lives in a homeless camp in Nelson, where she has been sexually assaulted. She is addicted to fentanyl, meth, and benzodiazepines. According to her father, at one point, this government placed her in an SRO with a known human trafficker. Yesterday, this Minister of Housing stood in the chamber bragging about unrelated projects while ignoring this young lady's crisis, even though the local NDP MLA has been fully aware of the case details and should have relayed them by now. How can this government justify letting a vulnerable teenager struggling to overcome addiction fall through every crack, only to end up in a drug camp surrounded by predators?
Minister for Housing and Municipal Affairs.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. And every single individual, whether they're young, whether they're seniors, deserves to get access to housing. The member from Terrace yesterday in her question said this individual was sleeping in an emergency weather shelter. I heard it. I'll check the record. But that's funded by local government, and that was my comment. clearly, the member from Surrey Cloverdale continues to heckle, continues to not be able to control the heckling that comes out of her mouth. Honourable Speaker, perhaps I'll answer when the member is ready. Great leadership material for the next BC Conservative Party, Honourable Speaker, from that member from Surrey Cloverdale. Even their members are laughing. Honourable Speaker, the member referred to the housing that I mentioned. The housing that I've mentioned is important because we're making investments to invest in housing that people need that are struggling in our communities. Why are we making those investments? Because those investments weren't made for decades. We are decades behind when it comes to affordable housing. We talk about supportive housing in this time, Honourable Speaker, all the time. But I continuously hear opposition every time. And so we're going to continue to invest in supportive housing in Nelson to support vulnerable people to get them indoors, Honourable Speaker, because it's vitally important to do so. But what I want to hear when we bring these projects forward, not only in Nelson, but in Richmond and other communities, it would be good to hear these people supporting it because the story of this young woman is tragic. But every time we open supportive housing, that's who it's supporting. It's supporting vulnerable people. So you can't come in this House and criticize us for not having enough, and then at the same time, go in your communities and talk about how you don't want these housing units in our community. You can't have it both ways. So, Honourable Chair, we'll continue to do the work to support this vulnerable person and other vulnerable people because we know this housing is vitally important.
Member for West Kelowna Peachland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This week, I've been working with a man recovering from addiction, living with a brain injury and completely blind. Yet he's been shuffled between two wet housing facilities that put his sobriety at risk. Agencies aren't talking to each other. He was sent to a new residence without a replacement white cane, just a broomstick to guide himself. Is this how we treat vulnerable people in this province? Can the minister explain how this level of negligence is acceptable under her watch?
Here, here. Minister for Housing and Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The member didn't share the community, but I assume it's West Kelowna. The member will be aware that we've been working with the local government to try to scale up more opportunities for people, all different types of opportunities, both some sites that are wet, as the member has replied, and some that are dry, because we know the needs are different for individuals. We have had some challenges in the community to get those units up. We've had some successes in the neighboring community in Kelowna. The member will be aware that we've got approximately 40 units that we've scaled up to get people indoors. But this is why we're making these investments. This is why we're going to communities and trying to make the case for why communities should accept this type of housing. Because we know that not every single person's needs are the same, but we also know that we need to have a breadth of options of housing available in communities. And so, again, I'll reiterate what I said in my previous answer, which is I appreciate the member bringing this case forward. I appreciate members raising issues on behalf of people who need supports. But what I'm asking is for this support to go outside. Go to your communities and make the case for why supportive housing is needed. Because in here, you're telling us that you think it's important. Good, I'm with you. We're doing that. We're out there talking to communities. But what we need from you is to go out there in your communities and say why it's needed. And that's what we're not hearing so far.
Recognizing the member from Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the problem with that answer is that we repeatedly bring these issues to the government, and the only people they seem to listen to is the Mutual Admiration Society on that side of the House. They don't realize these are the issues from the communities we're bringing forward, and they're not solving the problems. Madam Chair, you know, it's interesting. Shortly after the Premier strong-armed his way into the Premier's chair through that sham of a leadership race the NDP had, the Premier insisted he had all the answers for the downtown east side. He cut his teeth there as a young lawyer. He knew what needed to happen. He was going to take it over. He was going to take the reins of it, and you would have changes you could touch and see and feel immediately. That was the Premier's commitment. Then, in the election, when he had been failing for 2 years, he said, and his commitment in the convention election, as he just said the other day, whether the plans the province has underway and commitments the province made during the election are going to make sense. So a man who said he had all the answers goes through an election saying he has all the answers, now has to actually hire yet another consultant to find out if his plans actually make sense or not, Madam Chair. That's the track record of this government. 7 years of failure. Now they have to review all of their failures to figure out how to fix the mess they've created after 7 years. Madam Chair, we've asked a couple of questions today about the hiring of Michael Bryant. A couple key ones have been conveniently completely avoided by this government. So dealer's choice. They can pick either of the two that they've refused to answer. Why did Michael Bryant leave BC Legal Aid, not Ontario, BC Legal Aid, after only 2 years? And why, or was Vancouver actually consulted about the secret hiring, apparently, of Michael Bryant back in February? They can answer either or both of those questions if they choose, or they can go down weird rabbit holes like they've been doing for the rest of today, Madam Chair.
Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. There was a lot in that rant that we just heard, Honourable Speaker. But I'll go to the core principle. I think what the member was talking about is that things that they're hearing in their community. I hope he's hearing in his community that people are pleased with the largest investment in housing in the history of Kamloops, Honourable Speaker. The member from Terrace raised an issue in this House about an individual who had their money being clawed back. I hope she's hearing that that issue got resolved. The member from Prince George, I'm sure that they're hearing that the largest investment in supportive housing, which has addressed the Buxton Flats and getting people indoors, is helping. I hope the member from Campbell River is hearing the same thing. I hope the members in all their communities.
Members, we're close here. Let's hear, members. Minister, hold on. Hold on. Let's hear the response from the minister. Proceed, Minister.
Thank you. I clearly hit a soft spot, Honourable Speaker. My point, Honourable Speaker, is this. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The point is, Honourable Speaker, that the housing we're putting to communities, the supports we're putting around those housing units is making a big difference in communities.
Members, we're near the end here. Let's hear the response from the minister. Minister, hold on. Hold on.
It's near the end of session, Honourable Speaker.
Hold on.
They're getting
Minister,
tired.
just a minute. Just a
tired.
minute. All right. Proceed.
Continue to make investments in community. It's making a real difference. We're turning a corner. We know we have more to do, and we're going to continue to do that work, Honourable Chair. Thank you so much.